John, this is where the internet rubber meets the road, and I hope that we are functional right now. It looks like it may well be. We had a small technical problem with one of the myriad service providers that are required to make this show happen, and I think we should be live right now. How are you, John?
I think I'm all right. I think everything's okay. How are you doing? You're all right?
You know, I've been a little stressed out for the past 30 minutes trying to get our show going, but it seems like we're going. Such a weird problem. Man, I can't believe it. It's working on that computer. Holy cow. Anyway, I won't go into the technical details, but John, the internet has been working like crap lately overall. If I had to guess, I would say that there is a cyber war going on, multifaceted, social engineering, financial aspects. You know, Google and YouTube have had problems. This was a streaming server problem. What's going on, do you think?
Yep. Well, when you, excuse me, when you said you were having difficulty, I went to one of the threat sites that I used, and I recorded what was happening at that moment, and I sent you a video, a .mov file from the screen that I just recorded 20 minutes ago or 30 minutes ago, as you said something's up, and I sent you a recording.
Okay.
In the chat, in the little chat in Skype.
Okay, let me
you
grab
should have a, and you can show the audience this is what was happening 30 minutes ago. And it appears there was some sort of cyber attack going on. But I'm not a security guy. So I'm not when you start getting into internet security and stuff, it's out of my league. I know applications and stuff like that, but I'm not an internet security expert. But I can look at this thing and tell you it's lit up like a Christmas tree. And that's not good, right? It's way better designed than the CDC software, I can tell you that. So much so you can look at it and tell what's happening.
I don't see this link that you've sent, but I think everybody trusts you that, people are, I get it that the audio, guys, this has been quite a lot of work here. Even the audio is on high and I'm low. So let me adjust that. I mean, this has been a lot of...
I can take it down on my end.
No, we're good.
Okay. All right,
well, John, you've prepared another great presentation for us today, and we've got all of the vamping and craziness having to do with technical problems out of the way. Why don't you give us a little overview of what people are going to see when they join us on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, or Subscribestar or Patreon/CrowdsourceTheTruth.
You bet. Well, first of all, tip of the hat to the art department. Another award-winning thumbnail. Remarkable. This is just spectacular. The title of the show is something that we're going to get into, right? You just go right to the next slide, and let's do bottom line up front. The president has said there's really nothing that we can do to change the pandemic trajectory in the coming months, and that the death toll is expected to go well over 600,000 people. Now, that's pretty remarkable. That's a big number.
Indeed. We haven't heard numbers like that or projections like that since the early days of the pandemic. My neighbor's dog is going insane in the hallway. I was trying to stay as wearing my patience thin, John.
I love little yappy dogs. Oh, they're just so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like the dog. I don't like the neighbor. The whole thing is not good.
I think you're going to get welcomed with open arms wherever you head next. So, and you know what's stupid?
What's that?
Go ahead.
I was going to say President Stupid was campaigning, telling us he had all kinds of plans and that Donald Trump did not act appropriately in the face of coronavirus. And now that he has effectively taken the throne, he says, there's nothing he can do about it.
In fact, I think he said it within 24 hours of taking office. So that was pretty, so that was fantastic. So with that development, so given that the president has said that there's really nothing we can do to change the trajectory, right? This calls back into question some of the stuff that we talked about on the show last week, and we'll touch on that in a second. But why don't we go to the next slide? The next slide just sort of puts everything in perspective. This is a story from Alana Mastranangelo. I can't pronounce that. Somebody who's Italian can say that way better than me. Mastrangelo, I guess. Alana Mastrangelo. And Alana is dynamite. Two of my favorite authors at Breitbart. She is just fantastic, and Alum Bakari. So both of them are doing a great job. This story, over 31,000 people in the United States have died from coronavirus in the first week of Joe Biden's presidency. Now, I want to, yes, and I'm going to put this in perspective for you. Because it's important, right? So this is what we've been doing on the show now for about a year, is putting the outbreak in perspective, right? And comparing it to other things. So if you go to the next slide, what you'll see is I wanted to compare the 31,000 people that have died in the past week in the United States with countries that haven't had 31,000 people die during the entire pandemic. Okay. And so if you zoom in on that page that you're looking at right there, if you can just take a closer look at that puppy, you'll see Indonesia doesn't have 31,000 people dead. Which is the first one. And Indonesia with 29,000 people dead, the population is 275 million people in Indonesia. It is the fourth most populated country on earth. During the entire pandemic, over the course of the last year, they have fewer people dead than Joe Biden has had in his first week of presidency. Then we go to Turkey. Turkey has 84, almost 85 million people. And Turkey has almost 26,000 dead, but that's fewer than we had in a week in the United States under Joe Biden.
Wow.
Now, I'm looking at countries, I kind of like to look at countries with bigger populations, right? So what I do is I scroll and I scroll and I scroll and I get down to Pakistan. Pakistan has 223 million people and 11,500 are dead.
Total, and only 46 in the last week.
Mm-hmm. Now, 11,560, to put that in perspective, that's 3 days under Joe Biden.
Wow. I never thought the prospect of moving to Pakistan might seem appealing.
All right, so slow down. I don't want you to move to Pakistan. If you just go down a couple more countries, actually just one, just go to the Philippines. Because Duterte, right, we know Duterte and what he told the women. He said, you better stay in your house or else. 110 million people, 110 million people in the Philippines. 10,600 are dead. Right?
And only 48 new.
Right. Now, 10,600, again, that's 3 days in the United States in the past week under Biden. So in 3 days, Joe Biden had more people die in the United States than Duterte, who is as different as they come as an international leader, right? And he just, I think this week, he said this job is not for any woman. Right. So
but didn't he say terrible things? This threat to women was about shooting them in their reproductive organs, wasn't it?
He said, yeah, we'll shoot you in your vagina. He said, you stay in your house or we're going to shoot you in your vagina. That was his
Who says
edict.
That? That's crazy.
I got news for you. He sends his police out, they shoot people and everybody listens. So it's like Sharia law. It's similar. He's ruthless. And it's like Sharia law. So speaking of Sharia law, we're also going to talk tonight about how Joe Biden has decided to stop selling arms to the Saudis. And we have to ask ourselves, is he making this decision based on bad information? In other words, does he think MBS is off the ranch? Does he
No,
think
John,
MBS?
if I can offer an opinion, I think it's because Joe Biden is essentially continuing. Whoops, that's not me. Joe Biden is essentially continuing the Barack Obama administration, which was trying to cozy up to Iran, which is on the opposite side of this Saudi, Israeli, U.S. coalition.
So we're going to get into that when we go patron only. We're going to talk more about MBS, what this Biden administration thinks of MBS, and where are all of this in Saudi Arabia. I know where they are. All of their allies. In other words, all of the friends of this new administration in Saudi Arabia. Where are those people right now? And we're going to talk about that when we go patron only. Because there's a good side and a bad side to this decision. And we're going to talk about that when we go patron only. But let's jump back to the deck.
Look at this picture of President Stupid in Saudi Arabia. Isn't this his brother right here? Who is that?
Is it his brother or is it McCain? I can't see it well enough from where I am.
It looks like James Biden to me.
Could be. And that's Air Force 2. Or he was fine with the president on Air Force 1. I don't know. But let's hop back to the deck. Yeah. We're going to go into this. This is the patron only stuff. We're going to get into that because it's a big story. But let's go back to the first week of the presidency, right? First week of the presidency with the virus. A lot of criticisms of the former administration and what they did wrong. And now we're being told there's nothing that we can do. Now, if you go to the next page of my deck, go to the next slide. Next one. And even go to the next one.
Oh.
There we go. All right, let's see if we can zoom in on that area where I've got the red box drawn, because I want to kind of focus on a couple countries, and I wanted to focus on basically in the course of a 48-hour window in the first week of Joe Biden's presidency. So you can pick any 48 hours in the first week. Okay? So from the time he was inaugurated until this show has gone live, take any 48-hour window, and in the case of Egypt, we may have to go 72 hours. There's more people dead in the United States in that 48 to 72-hour window than in these countries during the entire pandemic, and I want you to look all the way out to the right at the population. Now, we're talking about China. We're talking about Bangladesh. Right, so 1.4 billion in China. Bangladesh, 165 million people. Japan, 126 million people. Egypt, 103 million people. And during the entire pandemic, they don't have as many people dead as the United States suffered under the first 48 hours of Joe Biden's presidency. Those are facts. They're not pleasant, but they're facts. All right, why don't we go to the next slide, see what we got.
Yeah. We've got a lot of disruptors in the chat today, John. You know, people feel like this information is so important that you and I need to dedicate all of our time and spend all this money having service providers and freaking out for an hour with the tech support so that someone named TK can get this information. The information is totally free. TK, you are welcome to come to New York City and go all around the world and go onto these websites that John goes to assemble this free information. But if people want to watch a professionally produced production, they can join us on subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen, patreon.com/IamJohnCullen, or Subscribestar and Patreon/CrowdsourceTheTruth. Certainly somebody who doesn't want to do that or can't afford to do that, we totally understand. But there's no need to put negative comments into the chat. I really feel like that is only the type of activity that a social engineer would engage in, or somebody that wants nobody to benefit from this information. So sorry about that, John.
Yeah, I agree. So this next slide I wanted to share with everybody really addresses what the thumbnail and the title of the show is about, which is the Papers, Please. Jason, when you were with me and we were driving through the jungle in Thailand and we got pulled over, tell me about the white privilege that you experienced.
I thought they were going to shoot us. I thought for sure we were going to jail, and I was just mentally preparing myself. I mean, not that we were doing anything. I just like, whoa, what is this? Because also your reaction was unusual. To me, I figured it was normal that you just get stopped by the cops in the middle of the jungle, but you were like, this is unusual. And And it was like a little military installation. They had a Jeep.
Yeah, you didn't know that I had a weapon on me. You didn't know I had a gun with me.
I didn't know that until just right now.
Oh yeah. So I had a pistol. I had a pistol, and when they pulled us over, they said we're looking for weapons and drugs, and I wanted to reply with the Stephen Wright joke, which is, "What do you need?"
Nah, that wouldn't have been funny at all.
I didn't think it would have gone over well. So that's when I started to speak to the guy and told him who I was with, and you saw what happened next. But the point was, we weren't getting any white privilege, right? We were about to get
being white, I thought, made it more likely that we were going to get in trouble.
Yeah. Well, especially when they saw what was under my shirt, right? So, yeah.
Well, let's take the mystery out of this, because people are going to think something crazy is going on. Can I say?
I guess you can. Sure.
You had befriended the local police chief or whatever he was, and he gave you some kind of badge, and we showed that to them. They let us go.
Almost.
You had to call.
Well, I'm friends with high-level guys in the Thai police department. That's half the reason why I'm still alive. And when I showed the local police the photo and the fact that he was in my messaging thing, and that I had just called him, and he saw his picture. You were speaking
Thai with these guys, weren't you? Because I sort of didn't know what was going on. I just sat there thinking.
Yeah, and then and the badge that I showed them was from New York City. That was an NYPD courtesy shield, from the best man at my wedding, who was inside 7 World Trade Center on September 11th. So that's how I have the inside story from what happened there. Was the guy who gave me his courtesy shield, and I carry that. And so when I showed them the courtesy shield, and I told them who I was with on the island, you saw how we got treated. I mean, they were like, oh, and they let us go. And
so that NYPD shield works better in Thailand than it does in New York. If you're actually doing something wrong, that shield doesn't usually do anything.
No. In New York, they know, the cops in New York, if you have a courtesy shield, and it's a sergeant's courtesy shield, so it's gold. It's a gold badge.
Yeah, be something I haven't
They know. They know. They cost a fortune. All right, let's go on. We have some material on before we have to wrap this up and go to Patreon only. The net of this is that Joe Biden. No, go back. We didn't talk about that last slide. Joe Biden is looking at travel, and that you're going to have to prove that you've had a vaccine in order to travel domestically. Now, this is what I mean by papers, please.
Oh, yeah. Actively looking. Right.
Okay, so we're looking now at... Now, I don't know if you guys heard, I don't think I have this clip, but Fauci this past week was asked by someone on a radio show or a podcast. Someone called in and said, my husband and I have had our second vaccine dose now. How long until we no longer have to wear the masks?
And what did the good doctor say?
Well, I don't want to paraphrase, but my understanding is that no. So in other words, let's say that you and your friends have all had the vaccine, and now you want to go to Las Vegas for the weekend. Can you just get on the airplane without a mask?
No.
Right. And you're going to say, but I've had the vaccine. So if I've had the vaccine, I obviously don't have the virus. And if I don't have the virus, I can't give it to anybody on the plane, and I'm not going to get it from anybody on the plane. So what the hell do I need to wear a mask for? That's question number one.
Doesn't believe that. He doesn't believe that.
He doesn't believe what? Which part?
Anything that he doesn't say. He doesn't believe.
That's different. Yeah, well, I expect that. That's called being a sociopath. But
right.
the net of this is you're going to say, well, wait a second. If I had my vaccine, why do I need to still wear a mask when I go into Whole Foods or Home Depot or wherever the hell you guys are, going when you have to go? I mean, at some point, you guys have to buy food. You got to buy toilet paper. You got to buy stuff, right? I mean, I get a lot of stuff at 7-Eleven, but you guys can get, you got to go somewhere sometime. And at that point, they're going to say, no, you got to wear your mask. And you're going to say, but I had my vaccine. Now, where am I going with this? You're being socially conditioned and engineered into wanting to have a passport to prove you had the vaccine. Because they're going to shut it down so that you can't go anywhere unless you've had the vaccine. And you're going to have to wear 2 masks unless you can prove you had the vaccine. So you're going to start asking for it. You're going to
Well, there is one caveat, John. If you're not a citizen of the United States, you can just bum rush the border, come on in, no vaccine, no questions asked. Just start collecting money.
If you're from Venezuela and you're in the United States illegally already, man, you hit the lottery, right? Because you're in, and they're giving full immunity and like full benefits like instantly. And what's interesting is I know people who have applications that are in process and, that tried to fill in the paperwork. Right, do it the legal way, and the people who came in through Venezuela are going to get instant immunity and whatever's going to happen. And there's a whole bunch of people who are still waiting for the legal process to go through. It's kind of weird. I guess the same thing's happening with the vaccine. How are we doing on time? Are we?
We have just about 3 minutes, but real quickly, Thomas Tyson brings up the point that interstate highways are federal property, and he's speculating that Biden's executive order regarding masks applies to car travel domestically. It's the first time I've heard that, and we're going to have to check the language of the executive order. I'm pretty sure it said federal buildings, which a highway is not.
Do me a favor, jump forward 2-3 slides to the Dr. Scott Jensen. I want everybody to know about the Dr. Scott Jensen came on the show this week. Yeah. And, so I was able to get an interview with him. And tonight, after our Patreon show, I'm going to be releasing the 3rd part of the interview. So it's a 3-part series. The final 3rd part I'm releasing after our Patreon show to my patrons on Patreon and Subscribestar. We'll be able to see it later this evening, New York time. And then I'll release it on YouTube, I guess, Sunday night or something like that. So everybody will get to see it Sunday night. If you're a patron on Subscribestar or Patreon, you're going to get to see it later this evening, your time.
And it's important for people to know that that's for patrons of subscribestar.com/IamJohnCullen or patreon.com/IamJohnCullen. I didn't know that you had Dr. Jensen on there. I had an interview scheduled with him a few months ago, but a conflict arose, and you remind me that I have failed to get back in touch with the doctor. He is a very nice guy, and he raises so many excellent and important points that really need to be addressed. We've got about 1 more minute, John, so just wrap it up for us, and then we'll head over to the sponsor-exclusive segment.
So I have another promotion I'm going to be announcing for Patreon and Subscribestar, which is a new level of subscription. And with that level of subscription, you're going to receive all of these show notes. So all of these presentations that I prepare from last year. So everything that documented this outbreak and all the charts and all the spreadsheets, every week I send you a PDF of about 50, 60 pages, right?
Yeah.
Well, we've got
it's a lot of work.
50 weeks of 50 pages is 2,500 pages, plus all of the images, all of these spreadsheets in a zip file from WeTransfer, right? So it's going to be massive. But when you subscribe, basically it's I guess it's $2.95 a year, but they discount it. So it works out to $25 a month, paid up front with the discount thing. So basically it's $1 more than what people were spending at $20 a month anyway. For those of you who've already subscribed at that level, you're getting it. And for those of you who come on, you're going to get, I just had a bunch of people kind of re-up their subscriptions, which was awesome. So if you re-upped at this level, you're getting it. And for those of you who come on with this, you're going to get all of this documentation from every show last year. We did 50 shows.
All right.
Or 51.
Yeah. So with that, John, we're going to head on over to the sponsor exclusive segment. I want to thank all the generous sponsors that make the show possible. That's a great benefit for John's sponsors, and I hope that people will also sponsor Crowdsource the Truth. We'll be back